everybody. What's the word? Sorry to be out of commission last week. I've been sick. I don't know if I'm getting better, if I'm just used to it. Basically, I just have a splitting headache all the time. I thought we would just discuss both of the Toyworld figures together. They happen to come in one after the other. And they both beat all the other figures I had available in the poll. What I shot this past weekend and is up on locals right now is the Kang Toys Firmament, their version of Dive Bomb. And that'll be on YouTube next Sunday. And I think based on the polling, I'll just go ahead and do the New Age Toys Darius, which is like a tiny little Galvatron this weekend, which will be next Sunday on YouTube, and then we'll get around to doing the Good Smile Company Cycleon. She's not very complicated, but she's kind of neat looking, so we'll do a little video of her. And then there's other stuff kind of out on the horizon. When are they going to be released? Who can say? But lately I've had kind of a glut of things to shoot, so that's been nice. We'll start with, we'll just do them in order, and also in order of, in escalating order of how I like them. I like them both just fine. So this is, for some reason they named it Alert, but it is Toyworld's take on a World War, I don't know. This vehicle's more of a World War II vehicle, but, so I don't, it's like the World War line of toys. The tank that came out that I shot a while back was definitely World War I. The Bumblebee vehicle was more of a World War II. This is more of a World War II. And then this one, you're kind of back to a World War I. So who can say? I don't think they have their World War equipment straight in their heads. Red Soundwave. Oh, red, yeah. Hello. So this guy has some interesting little details. He does have the "to punish and enslave" emblazoned on one of his arms here, just like the barricade from the movies. Some of the joints are a little bit loose and floppy, but not too bad. You could always tighten them up if you wanted to. Certainly it was good enough to shoot a stop motion of, but you can see him kind of wiggling, so I thought I'd point it out. Transform this guy into a vehicle. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and take care of the arms bit. Now I thought this one was loose. It does seem pretty loose, but if you kind of shift it inward a little bit, it runs a little tighter. Then you can kind of lock it into position. For some reason it tends to ride out and pop loose a little bit. But it's not a matter of squeezing the wheel. I tried to tighten it that way, but it doesn't really affect how this thing operates. So this one can kind of slide back and forth and get stickier or less sticky. This one seems to be sticky no matter where it rides on that. So that's what it is. We're going to flip these out. Just kind of leave that out there for now. I'm going to go ahead and flip over the wheel. The hand, there's probably a lot of leeway in how you stow the hand because there's plenty of room for it when you get to vehicle mode, but I noticed the middle finger kind of folds in a little further, so I find that leaves a little space for the thumb, so the hand should probably look something like that, and then it kind of goes that way. Just going to do the same thing over here as I go along, and then we accordion out. Straighten this. We accordion out this piece. We flip over this panel. You can kind of hyperextend it like this way to get the panel to lock in, but there is a little bit of a tab that holds it in. So you're trying to get it like that. Do the same thing over here. All right. There we go. Now we've got the sides of the car pretty much put away. We can go ahead and do these. You can loosen these when you're following the official directions, but I came up with a better way than the directions had for getting everything put away. So you really can kind of leave these like this in one direction and go ahead and stow them like this in the other direction. But they just kind of go like that. They'll kind of come loose, and we'll just kind of fix them over and over as we go along. I like to angle these out to give myself plenty of room on the rear side here. We're going to go ahead and straighten the legs together, and they do kind of tab up. And we can lift out this. It's important that you don't, there's like a double arm here. You do want this lower for when you finally stitch it together in vehicle mode. So it does go lower like that. We'll go ahead and flip out this tire and lift up the windshield and flip out the windshield. So that's just all up there like that. There is a bit of a cockpit that can flip out a little more. It's hard to get a hold of, but you can flip it out a little bit. We open up these things. It's just on a little double hinge there. This can be kind of hard to untab sometimes, but they're basically just tabbed on each side. For whatever reason, mine folds a little stiffer on, like this one is a little harder to unfold flat, but you're going to unfold them flat like that. And then this whole thing turns into a big armature. Although, unlike Fans Toys, you notice this armature can actually hold its own weight. How about that? So it's a little less annoying than Fans Toys armatures, but it's still a little cheap. It's an armature. So it transports that back seat all the way back there. And then we can take the head, and you want to flip it all the way over like that. And then it can lower down through the hole there, and it rests kind of upside down there. There's a little double armature here. We extend it and fold this up so it sits on the face of the robot. We're leaving this up for now. And now we'll go ahead and flip up the seats. But now we're gonna get this thing to stitch together. So we bring an arm back. I'll kind of show you where everything's supposed to go. But there is a little tab on the inside of the arm here. It does tab into a slot on that seat. The hand doesn't tend to want to go straight in, so you have to kind of I usually end up having to kind of walk it in so it sits properly. And then we bring up this bit. Remember, we're keeping that double hinge folded all the way down. We're just folding up the further out hinge. But this does tab here, and the seat tabs there. So that's what we're going to try to repeat with the other side with a little less ability to see what we're doing. But I'm just going to loosen up the hand a little bit so it goes into its slot a little more successfully. And then we're just tabbing, tabbing, tabbing until we get it all tabbed up. It just helps at some point to just kind of hold the back end together so it's static. On the instructions, they kind of jump straight to like pull the sides out, but there's actually these little things hanging down. You see one there and one there. Those are actually would prevent the sides from going out, which is why we're saving the windshield bit to this step, because once the sides are in, then we can lower the windshield down or vice versa. And then the tire prevents the windshield from folding up like that, so it has to be the last thing to go. But you get a pretty nice little Type 82. It's basically a Volkswagen Bug that the German military used in World War II to transport. It's just a general sort of service vehicle like a Jeep. But there he is in vehicle mode. I do display in robot mode, so we may as well show the opposite path. So unlike the instructions, you would lift this up first and then lift the windshield up to release those tabs that keep the sides in. get the sides of the vehicle punched out like that. We can flip this up on its little double hinge and put it in place. Get the head out of the way. Just kind of pop it out there. Fold that flat as needed. We're going to take this back seat area and fold the hinges up. We're going to fold this in. One side for me is easier, so I like to get it lined up by doing that one, and then this one's a little harder to fold, but it goes on a little tab there too. And then this folds down and over. The windshield actually goes under here, and then the tire, do the seats, flip the head up. We can do the legs. Remember, we're going to undo that double hinge and flip the seats into the calves. Spread the legs out. And then we can fiddle with the arms. We're just going to rotate those forward out of the way. Move these flaps around. Do this double hinge here. Bring out the hand. Bring over the wheel. Unfold the fingers as desired. And then you fold this little guy so it's facing forward and it's all pointy and dangerous looking like it should be. Same thing over here. It's a fairly simple design, and I think they do a good job with what they have, and I think it's it ends up looking different enough than the vehicle that it's, you know, visually interesting. It's got these little floppy bits here. I don't know if they're supposed to be up in vehicle mode and down in robot mode, but you can't really stop them from being down in robot mode, so you may as well just have them that way. But there's Barricade. We may as well talk about his odd little set of accessories. Of course, he comes with instructions, which aren't, they're decent instructions, but we don't need to really discuss them. It comes with a saw blade that you can, I never tried to attach it anywhere. I guess you can put it on the back of his hand there. So he's got a saw blade. It looks a little more like a primitive, more primitive saw. It comes with a table, a die-cast table. It comes with a tiny chair. It comes with a chest piece that looks like it belongs more to Bumblebee, so I don't know if that's like some sort of replacement chest piece for Bumblebee. I didn't really try to mess with it. It comes with a little shovel, because a lot of times these cars have like a little shovel near the front, and I think near the front it does have like a little hook for holding the shovel, but I never really messed with that either. I'm not really an accessories guy, but it does have a little shovel. And it comes with this very oversized, although, you know, like the tech back then was pretty primitive, so maybe this is the right size for a phone. It was a big phone, and I saw in all these pictures that it came with like a little Frenzy figure, and I was like, I guess it doesn't come with a Frenzy figure, but it does come with a Frenzy figure. The Frenzy figure fits inside here. Mine happened to, it's kind of like a, you know, pop together figure, but one of the arms, when I went to shoot, it broke when I went to bend the arm. It wouldn't take much to fix, but I just didn't bother with it. But it does have like a little Frenzy figure, so la-di-da, that exists. Anyway, so there's your accessory discussion for those of you that care about that. I'm gonna slide the little shovel completely off the table to get my hand on it. Instructions away, and put the table away. It was a little confusing. The platform, or the bit of scenery that it comes with here, it came with a bunch of little plastic plates and a little stack of neodymium magnets. I assume they all had to be oriented the same way, although I haven't tried to touch this to the other plate to see if I maybe got all the magnets exactly backwards, but I did get them all pointed with north or south or whatever pointed the same direction. But you just had to drop them in and then put the little plates on top. So I could pry the plates off and switch the magnets around if I had to. The other plate that came with Bumblebee, the magnets were built in. So your mileage might vary with regard to that. But that's Barricade / Alert. Now we'll get on to my favorite guy. I just love, there's just something about biplanes and multiplanes, triplanes and stuff that intrigue me. And I do have all the things so far that I have. So you have the Bumblebee, the Barricade, and the tank guy each came with a part of this guy. So I have 2 legs, and yeah, it's just 2 legs from like here down, the legs basically. 2 legs and 2 arms of this, or 1 arm of this. And I assume the Fierce Hot, the hot rod that's going to come out next, I assume, is going to come with the other arm. And then I also assume that their big battleship guy is going to come with like the body. And it's like a silver version of this, like a gray version of this. But Toyworld decided to release like a red, like a limited edition, like Red Baron version of this. And I had to have the Red Baron version. So that's why. We can just take the accessories off. It's pretty much like the video, but there is like a sticking point that we should discuss. You don't want to pull too hard on the propeller. I like to get my fingers like on the actual like thing that's sitting on the peg and pull that off. It's a little tight the first time you do it, so it's scary. But turn into a plane. By the way, the entire time I shot the upper body of this, his legs were actually like this because they're not real stiff. So it could, you know, if I was fiddling with stuff, it would just go lower and lower and lower until it collapsed. So a little behind the scenes knowledge at you. But the main thing we want to do is start transforming the body. We want to get the front of the plane mostly out of the way. Don't want to go all the way just yet with that. We want to untab these big tabs out of the front part of the arms. So that goes back. This goes back. Unfortunately, it's a little inelegant because you can't actually put these together with the wings folded all the way down. So you do have to raise them up a little bit to tab these 2 halves together. And that's kind of how it was shot. So that's the first bit of that. Then we take the arms. They have to flip over basically 180 degrees. And I unfold, because the hand's going to go in that direction, I unfold this one first. And then flip this over where the hand kind of fits in that pocket, if it will, like that. And then unfold the other wing flap over. So now we've got this big wing. Do the same thing over here. Just going to bring this up. Rotate 180 degrees. Unfold my flaps and my whatnots. So there's that. And then we start opening up the chest. This folds open and this folds up. The wing sits at a slight angle. So you do want to make sure that this is kind of sitting at an angle up. You can also not tab the wing in right away if it suits you. But for the sake of a clean transformation, I just kind of did it that way. And then we want to take we just want this as far back out of the way as we can. And we're going to lift up the head. We're going to fold this over the face, fold up these side flaps, and we're going to put that as far out of the way as we can. It is a bit of a struggle to get the arms through here because there's a lot of collisions that occur. So it wouldn't be Toyworld, I think, if you didn't have something where maybe the CAD design was... But you can walk it through. It's no big deal. It just kind of gets caught a little there and caught a little there, and then you walk it in. But your goal is to get it about like that. Do it on the other side. And then you do want to kind of spread the 2 arms apart and get them to peg right there. So they line up there like that. And then we can lower these decorative, like over the shoulder, over the chest flaps there. Then we can lower this down. We can lower this to where it's supposed to be, although I wouldn't lock this in just yet for reasons. We'll get there. And then you can do the top wings as well. So we're basically just getting all the wings set up the way they're supposed to be. And over here. Hello. Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I switched my mic the other day, but I think I'm still using the boom. Yeah. All right. Now doing the legs is a little tricky, or the waist really is kind of tricky. What was I doing? But we'll go ahead and rotate the legs, so it's flush here. And this one at the mid-thigh joint. Go ahead and fold the feet up, and then you can flip over this bit and capture the tab there, and go ahead and fold down the wing if it suits you. Can do the same thing over here, and then collapse the legs, and then there's like this ornamental little flap that covers up that spot there. So we end up with them like that. It does help to go ahead and untab this bit, and we can go ahead and raise it up if we want to, just to give ourselves a little more leeway here. But the legs have to rotate around and then face backwards like this, so the red is on the outside. So we're just bringing them around like that. Go ahead and tab them together while we're here, just to keep them under control. So that tabs together. And the main thing is we want the legs stowed for the step where we kind of get the wheels out. Otherwise, the wheels will collide. It took me a long time to figure out how to do the wheels properly. But basically, you flip the wheel around, They do tend to get caught under these flaps that they're tucked under. You can adjust as needed to get them out. And then this bit here, if you let this hang down, this passes very narrowly through there, right there. So a lot of the setup for this is making sure the legs are still together or back together, depending on what direction you're going in, and passing that through at that critical moment. But these go up front, and then the front cowl kind of grabs them. And then we can bring this up and smush it down, and this in, and whatever time is convenient, you can bring these two flaps on either side down. And you end up with this. You can put the propeller on. The machine guns actually have like a little semicircular indentation that goes around that hinge in the middle. So one goes on one particular side and the other one goes on one particular side. Otherwise, it'll collide with that hinge and you won't be able to peg it in properly. But you get the two guns mounted, straighten out any wing issues. And I left it downstairs. It comes with a metal display stand. Yeah, I definitely left it downstairs, but it's like a cool little display stand. It made the box surprisingly heavy because the display stand is die cast. So it's quite a elaborate display stand. People complain about the kibble between the front wheels, but there really was kind of a fourth wing on these Fokker DR1s that were between the wheels. So they are trying to kind of have it be like a tapered wing between the front wheels. The main reason they had so many lifting surfaces is the old engines weren't very powerful, and so you needed a lot of lift to get the plane up in the air. And as you can imagine, having 3 sets of wings or even 2 sets of wings on the biplanes created a lot of drag. And so these planes did not fly very fast, but they were pretty agile for what they were. And the Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, made good use of a number of planes. This wasn't even the plane he had his most kills with, but it is the Fokker DR1 is the plane most associated with his legend, with his image. But a lot of his planes were red, not just the Fokker DR1. So we go back to robot mode. How's the discussion going? I don't know if they already asked before, but do you have any bad experience with Toyworld brand? Toyworld can have clearance issues, like I was discussing with the wheels here. This guy didn't really have any clearance issues in particular. The Bumblebee had some clearance issues, and that big Optimus Prime, Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime that I did, definitely had some real tight, like stuff was rubbing against other stuff. My throat's a little dry, excuse me. Calvin Correa says, Hola, PS2. Hola to you, sir. I have a similar Decepticon, but it's only 4 inches tall. It's pretty cool. I got it because the head sculpt is a skull face with red eyes. I think you're talking about the biplane that came out under the Reveal the Shield line between the second and third movies, or between the first and second movies. I can't remember. But yeah, that's a neat little biplane. The only other multi-plane that I've ever seen besides this one. So that's a cool little figure you're remembering. I've got that one. It's downstairs. I meant to have it for my review here, but I forgot, so kill me. So we'll take off the accessories just to get them out of the way. The guns definitely have to come off. First stop is we're going to release the tab on the top that holds the legs in. We're going to go ahead and just extend those as much as we can. Bring them down. We can go ahead and flip out these things since they're conveniently available at the moment. And we're going to pop the front to unlock the front wheels. And we're going to do that. We're going to experience that little moment where we've got just enough clearance to get this through to the other side. And it does start to collide with this, which is, you know, part of the problem when you're doing this. We're going to go ahead and bring the wheels up. And I like to go ahead and, once everything's passed, I can go ahead and split these and get them over here, because that allows me to take this gray plate and put it further down closer to this thing. But that's the idea, at least. You want that, ultimately, this front plate to be flat along with this metal armature here. So flat. And this whole thing lifts up. We kind of guide the wheels so they go under the red plate tabs on the side. Like that. Like that. And this folds down a little bit and tabs into that gray plate, and we just straighten everything up. We just want to make sure the wheels, I like to keep the wheels towards the center of the body, like that. They're not sticking too far out. So that's that. We can do the legs now. So we're just folding up this flap. We're folding over that cover flap. Extending the leg. Untabbing this and flipping it over. Extending the foot and rotating the thigh into position. We can do the same thing over here in whatever order strikes our fancy. There's the two legs. The thighs pretty much ride all the way up to that hip girdle, you know, when you're trying to pose him in his normal stance. So they go like that. So we're going to untab these top struts and fold these wings up. The strut just kind of disappears inside that fold. It does end up inside that cavity there. And just get those out of the way for the time being. Go ahead and flip up this nose and kind of get it. It kind of gets caught there by friction, but you want to get it back out of the way because you want to take this and raise it up as high as you can. And then we're just about ready to do the arms, but you do want to remember to go ahead and flip up these things while you have a lot of access to dig your, you know, your fingernail or your thumbnail under it. Yeah, this is the side that's real tight, but you flip that up. And then you want to kind of pull those tabs apart. Once you get it started, it's not too bad. You just kind of fight it out in this direction. And fight this one out in this direction. It does get caught along the way. Then we can untab these and move the arms out of the way. These fold down, these fold over, down and over. And then we bring these two flaps out, bring this piece down. I think it's kind of cool. A lot of military, a lot of armies, including the German army in World War I, had a piece of, it used to be a piece of armor, like knight armor, But it's just like a remnant of knight armor used just for kind of a ceremonial look, and it's spelled Gorget, but I suspect it's pronounced Gorget or something. But I think it's interesting how they got the what part of the engine is visible to kind of form a gorget on his chest, just like Manfred von Richthofen would have worn to a fancy ball. We'll go a little bit out of order just to get these back pieces tabbed in to kind of hold the trapezoid of his chest together. Just go ahead and get that out of the way, and we'll just do the arms last, just for fun. But it does, it flips over like this. It's just a little easier to go ahead and do this flap now, and then flip it over, and then do the flap that covers up his handprint. We do the same thing on both sides. Very clever design. It's very economical and efficient, and it's just whoever designed this at Toyworld should be proud of themselves. It's an amazing way to turn, triplane into any kind of robot, let alone have it turn into like a crazy looking Starscream thing. If anything, Starscream's robot proportions were inspired by him being an F-22. So to have this thing turn into basically the same robot is kind of a bit of a magic trick when you're not starting with an F-22. It's a great figure. Those of you that are collecting all these Toyworld World War I figures, you don't have to go out and buy one of these limited edition colored versions. You can just wait to do your gray Build-A-Figure. That's going to fall off, and I'm going to put it back on. It's going to fall off, and I'm going to put it back on. But there you have it. A couple of cool figures from Toyworld. They are a small scale, as you can tell from the size of my hands. The red figures are taller than the... I mean, really, this is more of a deluxe scale, and this is close to a Voyager scale. So they're not huge figures. So you might think, well, they're kind of pricey for the size they are, but it's not as pricey as buying like an official MPM figure. I don't know, the MPM figures are what, $80? I don't know. Similar. Sure, yeah. There's only one other biplane in the entire Transformers universe that I know of, and it's that Reveal the Shield Decepticon. I forgot what the name. There was a couple of recolors of it, though, but I'll see if I can find it. How about that? We'll go to Transformers World 2005. We'll tear that tab off and pop it up here. Let's see. Toys. We'll call it main lines. I guess it was a movie line. I thought it was called Reveal the Shield. It's going to be hard to find this thing. But I know what you're talking about. His name might have been Fly something. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here's it. I actually have the recolor. So, display capture. Yeah. So, here's one that's red. That's kind of cool. That's Dive Bomb. But it was based on reuses. Revenge of the Fallen Ransack. That's probably the one you're thinking about. You'll have to tell me. Yeah, he has red eyes and he's kind of creepy looking. But yeah, I mean, it's a little biplane. It's not quite as elegant as this Toyworld figure, but still, it's a biplane. It had a couple of reuses. Transformers Blue Maximus. I take it it's a blue one. Huh. Intended as a release as a part of Scout 2-pack, the toys were never officially unveiled. Okay, so that's one that never got actually released. But I have both recolors of this, including this one here. But pretty cool to have a figure turn into a multiplane. Pretty rare. But this guy's, you know, much better in terms of engineering. But his name was Ransack, that yellow one that you had. Well, when I got this, I knew, you know, to some extent about World War One and Richthofen and, you know, biplanes and stuff, but I actually got really curious. So I did a lot of Googling and read a lot of Wikipedia articles about, like, why were there multiplanes back then? Why didn't they just have monoplanes? And it was because weak engines. They needed to favor lift over speed. What's crazy is the engine on this thing didn't really even have a throttle. They had a button. I forget what they called it, a burp button or something. But it would basically let them cut the gas to the engine, and then the engine would keep spinning because of momentum. But they would just basically cut the gas to the engine, and it would actually waste a lot of gas in the process. But that's the only way they could get the engine to go slower. The engine couldn't just go slower. It had a bit of a throttle, but to land the plane, you had to kind of you had to kind of like cut the engine, which is crazy. The other crazy thing about this engine was, so you have a radial engine, which is, you know, multiple pistons in a ring formation that drive the propeller or whatever. You know, you've radial engine. There's like a weird motorbike in the Wikipedia article about it that's like a radial engine motorbike. But so you imagine all the pistons are firing and, you know, moving like a off-center crank and, you know, turning the propeller. But this engine was a rotary engine, and the difference was the whole set of pistons, the whole engine moved along with the propeller. So the whole engine moved along with the propeller, and I think, from what I understand, that was so that they could, it was a way to air cool the engine more efficiently, to have the piston heads like moving around with the propeller, whipping through the air, you know. But it's kind of crazy. This thing only shows like 3 pistons on it, because you only have to see 3 pistons under the engine cowl to, you know, to make it look like it's an engine. And when you turn the propeller on this guy, the pistons don't go with it, but it should. Like the whole engine is supposed to rotate with the propeller, which is crazy. But yeah, I read about Richthofen and his, he had a group of his squad, his team were called the Flying Circus, in part because they colored their airplanes in lively colors, including the red for the Red Baron, but also because they would just move from area to area on the front and set up tents and set up like impromptu airfields. So they were kind of like a traveling circus. So they were called the Flying Circus. Accessories. For some reason, this comes with a different hand. I don't know that it's different or if it's just... Oh, I mean, it's got like a port on the back so you can plug the gun into it or something. I don't know. It comes with different hands if you want it. It comes with this like gas mask you can kind of put on his face here. So it comes with that gas mask, and then it comes with an alternate head, which is more like the Bumblebee movie Blitzwing style head. So that's kind of a cool head, but I stuck with the Starscream style head. But it does come with that head. And then it comes with this this old-fashioned looking chain gun. And his hand kind of fits in there, and you close it up. And so he's got a big gun if you want him to. You see those knees like the sag if you touch them too much. And then I think the gun had like a like this little nozzle on the front, but I think it cracked off. So I found that little part the other day, and I was like, where'd that come from? And I think it was off the tip of the gun. But that's the accessory list. And that is catching us up to the 2 figures we've had since the last time we had a live stream. So there you have it. Any questions, class? This sounds like a cool model. Now, did it have a radial engine or a rotary engine? Did the model have the engine go with the propeller, or did the propeller just spin independently of the engine? That's the question. They had both kinds back then. Ultimately, when you get to like World War II, the propeller-driven aircraft then were powered by just big inline engines, like big, 8 cylinders in a line, or maybe V engines, but much like a car. They kind of got away from doing radial engines by the time you get to World War II. That's it. Like I said, up now at plsdrew.locals.com for supporting viewers. We have Kang Toys Firmament, the last figure we've seen anything of from Kang Toys, which is kind of scary because, when the Panther came out, we saw like prototypes of the bull and prototypes of Firmament, the eagle. And when the bull came out, we saw like, colored prototypes of the eagle, and then the eagle comes out, and we have yet to see a single prototype of the lion, the body, or the other leg, the bull, or the rhinoceros, and whatever they're doing with the legs. Like, we don't know yet whether there's going to be a 6th figure. There was some rumors that it was like a gorilla that turned into the thighs. But we haven't seen any prototypes for those. I think they were slowed down a little bit by COVID, I'm hoping. But you never know. Maybe they're just never going to finish building that combiner, which would be a damn shame. So, time will tell. I guess that's one of the hazards of getting into a combiner from a company you never heard of. Yeah, radial engines and rotary engines are the same. The only difference is the engine spins along with the propeller in the case of a rotary engine. There's a modern type of engine called a rotary engine or a Wankel engine that, you have an RX-7s, but that's not the same principle at all. But old-timey rotary and radial engines were, radial, the pistons stayed still, and in a rotary engine, the pistons flung themselves around along with the propeller. So you might have done a biplane that was just a regular old radial engine. A lot of the biplanes were radial engines, like the Sopwith Camel and other stuff that I didn't read as much into the other types of planes because I was just mostly interested in the Fokker DR1. Anyway, it's time to go take medicine. See if I can get rid of this headache now. I'll be shooting, like I said, the New Age Darius or Galvatron this weekend. He's a little guy. It's going to be a little tricky to get him to stay still. But he's a clever little figure. And then we'll shoot the Good Smile Company Cycleon chick the following weekend. Or, who knows, something else might come out in between. She'll get that poor girl will keep getting pushed off if there's anything kind of more relevant or hot. But she's a cool little figure. Not much of a transformer, but a cool figure. Whew. Alright. Well, that's all I got for you, gang. Thanks for dropping by, and if you're watching this on replay, thanks for watching. And that's it. Have a good Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Bye-bye.